Alrighty, guys, welcome into the live stream tonight. We are live and we are going to be discussing a prophecy update on the new peace agreement that has been taking place, as we have seen with Trump and Netanyahu. We're going to be describing in this video what my thoughts are about this, what I think is going to happen within the next coming days, especially with Yom Kippur, because the clock is ticking, guys. The clock is absolutely ticking as we speak when it comes to this new peace agreement that Trump and Netanyahu have put forth for the Middle East, which has the Middle East backing. This is looking a lot like the Abraham Accords, where the Middle East is currently backing, like Saudi Arabia, all of these countries are backing this peace plan. So we're going to get into what exactly is this peace plan, what does it mean, and what do I think is going to take place from it. So I want to give a quick shout out to Tonisha. How you doing, Tonisha? Our moderator. Looks like we got CID in the chat as well. And it looks like I might be having some issues with my chat loading. So I want to make sure that everything is fair and square. Let me see if this is working. Yeah, looks like for some reason my chat's not loading. So I'm going to have to load it up on my phone. But let me know if we're having issues with the live stream tonight, okay? If we have issues, just put it in the chat below. We'll fix it, okay? But guys, the clock is ticking. Very, very important to understand. The clock is ticking on the Gaza peace proposal as Israel prepares for Yom Kippur. 2 days, okay? We are sitting 2 days after President Trump unveiled his plan to end the war in Gaza. Officials in Washington, Jerusalem, and Doha are weighing the next steps. Time is running out for Hamas to agree to the proposal and end the war and release all of the hostages. Okay, President Trump told reporters that Hamas has only a few days to accept or reject the plan. Okay, we're going to do about 3 or 4 days, says Trump. We'll see how it is. All of the Arab countries are signed up. The Muslim countries are all signed up. Israel's all signed up. We're just waiting for Hamas. This is exactly what Trump said. He added that the room for future negotiations. And this is what he said specifically. He says, not much, with Hamas. We want very simple. We want the hostages back immediately, and we want some good behavior. And it's pretty simple. We don't get simpler. Think of it. We've signed every country in the Middle East. Guys, this is huge. Most countries in the Middle East do not support the peace agreements that Trump and Netanyahu have placed before. Now they have done this. So this is a big deal. This is more than Gaza. Gaza was big stuff, but this is Gaza. It is a piece of it. In Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with the members of his government. He quotes, in Washington, I agreed with President Trump on a plan for the release of all of our hostages and the achievement of all of our war goals we set. I will provide a more detailed report to both the members of the government and the members of the cabinet. Qatar said on Tuesday it will hold mediation talks with Hamas and Turkey over the U.S. proposed peace plan. Now, this is interesting, guys, because Hamas doesn't speak directly with the Trump administration or with Netanyahu. They don't speak directly with them. The ties are cut. So essentially what they do is they go through Qatar. So Trump and Netanyahu got on a call with Qatar, and they were able to, negotiate this peace process. And so it is up to Hamas as to what is going to take place. Okay. The Israeli people themselves have applauded the plan. Expectations, however, are low. The coming days will be critical. At the same time, Israel is preparing to shut down for Yom Kippur, the most solemn day of the year for the Jewish people. Many will fast for 24 hours and seek to reconcile with God and each other. So big news, guys. I mean, this is huge. We're going to see what Hamas is going to do. I'm curious as to what Hamas is going to do. I want to know what you guys think. I don't think that they're going to accept the peace agreement. I don't think they will. And the reason why is because they are stubborn. They are stubborn and they are demonically led. I believe it is a demonic country, not the country, sorry, but Hamas, the terrorist sympathizers. That is what I believe is demonically led. And so I don't believe that there will be an agreement whatsoever. And if that is the case, then Israel will be forced to finish the job. They will be forced to finish Operation Rising Lion, all of these operations that they've held. So we're going to see exactly what's going to take place. So what is this peace plan? What exactly is this peace plan for those who don't know? Okay. So essentially what this peace plan is, President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the world on Monday after the fourth White House meeting this year. Trump presented a plan he said would bring eternal peace to the Middle East, including the freeing hostages and ending the war in Gaza. At a joint press conference following their meeting, Trump presented his comprehensive plan for peace. Okay. He said, in quotes, "It is just a part of a bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East. Let's call it eternal peace in the Middle East. The proposal includes the return of all 48 hostages, living and dead, within 72 hours of signing the agreement, in exchange for 250 Palestinian prisoners serving life sentences and an immediate end to the war." Okay, they would be foolish not to take this, guys, because it would be an immediate end to the war. And Israel is said to leave parts of the Gaza Strip and to systematically leave the area of Gaza in accordance with how much disarmament they see with Hamas. That's what we're seeing here. So, under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed to demilitarize Gaza, and that's quickly decommissioning the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terrorist organizations. To do that immediately. And we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. This is the president, right? And they are standing with Netanyahu. So, what is the significance of this? Well, the significance of this is the fact that just the other day, the United Nations, 6 or 7 or 10 other United Nations declared Palestine as having a right to exist. This was huge news because these are Western allies who are doing this, right? Which is putting more pressure on the US and Netanyahu to essentially move this forward. Then comes this peace agreement that happens with Trump and Netanyahu that is essentially trying to bring peace to the Middle East. So we are seeing Bible prophecy unfold right before our very eyes. We're going to get into what exactly I think is unfolding. This is obviously isn't the covenant of Daniel 9, but what we're seeing is peace coming to the Middle East, which is what I predicted on this channel was going to take place ever since Iran was defeated, ever since, and it's unfortunate, guys. I can't see the chat. I've never had this happen in my chat where I can't see you guys. So I'm looking at you guys on my phone. I can see you guys on the phone, so I'll have to look back. But what it's really going to come down to is Hamas and how they're going to respond. That's what it's going to come down to, is Hamas's response. So we have yet to see within the next coming days how Hamas is going to respond to this peace agreement. And if they make peace, that will be huge, historic news. If they don't, then it will just be the continuation of the war until the very end where Hamas is completely defeated. So there's only two options. They only have two options here. They can choose the easy route, which Netanyahu said, look, we're going to go the easy route or we're going to go the hard route. The easy route is to accept the peace agreement and to accept defeat. That's the easy route. Or they can reject the peace agreement and have total and utter failure, total and utter defeat in the future. Okay? So I want us to go back to this idea of the maps that recognize a Palestinian state. The countries that are now representing a Palestinian state. Forgive me for the advertisements that are on here, guys. But this is really, we have to understand how significant this is. That a map by Newsweek shows how over 3/4 of the United Nations members recognize Palestine as a state, following announcements by the United Kingdom, Portugal, Australia, and Canada. Other UN members to follow suit include Luxembourg, San Marino, Belgium, Andorra, France, and Malta, adding to a growing list of countries that have formally recognized or announced plans to recognize Palestinian statehood since 1998. So this is a map that we're looking at right here that shows how many UN states recognize Palestinian statehood. All of South America, most of North America, except for, of course, the United States does not recognize. Pretty much all of Europe. Pretty much all of Africa, now Australia, many areas of the Indonesia, like Indonesia. So we're seeing what this map represents is increasing pressure on the two-state deal. That's what this map represents, is increasing pressure on the statehood of Palestine. So whether Hamas is going to be defeated or whether they are going to accept the deal doesn't really matter, because we're seeing increasing pressure by the UN member states to impose a two-state solution. What does the two-state solution look like? I don't know. Nobody knows, because it's one of the hardest problems to solve. How do you give back land that was conquered through Israel? Israel has total control of Israel, Gaza, the West Bank, all of it. So how do you make a state out of the blue after being totally defeated? I don't know. So the leaders of major Western countries recognize a Palestinian state following condemnation of Israel's escalation of its offensive in Gaza, amid a growing humanitarian catastrophe in the territory. The wave of countries delivers a blow to the government of Israel, which has responded by saying recognition of Palestinian statehood without specifications to clamp down on Hamas rewards the terror. That's how they're responding. Is they're saying, if you guys are going to recognize the Palestinian state, you are rewarding terror, which is what I agree with, right? They carried out the brutal October 7th, 2023 attacks in southern Israel. So that is what is going to take place. So what do we need to know is that Palestine is recognized as a state by more than 3/4 of the United Nations, 193 member states. It has observer status rather than UN membership, a status which has been vetoed by the United States, one of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. So the reason why the Palestinian state is not a member of NATO is because the USA keeps vetoing it, right? Because they have number one recognition. Most countries that recognize Palestine did so in 1988. However, now we've recognized that 10 more have come out as of just a few weeks ago. Okay. So that is what we're dealing with. And again, I can't see my chat. This is really, really sad. Let me see if I can bring it up on here. If I can show it on the stream. It's not working. I don't know why it's not working. I've never had this happen before, guys. So I'm going to have to read off of your questions via my phone. That's what we're going to have to do, is do it via my phone. So that's essentially what we're doing now. Do we have any questions when it comes to this? I know we're a little bit behind, but this is what we are dealing with. Crazy, crazy times. We are living in crazy times. Okay. What does the future of Israel look like? Will Israel be forced into making a two-state solution? That is the question I'm posing in this video. When you look at the Bible, it doesn't really describe anything specifically to this. It doesn't describe, the Palestine two-state solution. In fact, actually, when you look in the Bible, when you go to Zephaniah and you go to other prophecies, it says Gaza will be a desert. Gaza will be deserted and will be given over to the Israelites. Zephaniah chapter 2 and 3, I believe. But coming up in the future, what does a two-state solution look like? And will Israel ever accept it? Right? Tonisha says, I just don't understand. No other Middle Eastern country wants to take them in because they are terrorizers. Why bully Israel into doing it? It's wrong. It is wrong. But this is why I said, look, we have to understand that according to the Bible, there are principalities that are ruling over these nations. There are demonic forces that, according to Psalm 83, want to form a coalition against Israel and destroy her. That's what they want to do. So currently, here's another news update. There is a flotilla that is, has Greta Thunberg and has a bunch of these other people coming to the Gaza with humanitarian aid, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. Essentially bringing humanitarian aid is good. But what happens is Hamas hijacks that humanitarian aid and uses it against Israel. That's what they've been doing from the beginning. They've been using this humanitarian aid against Israel from the beginning. So the question is, why are we giving terrorists humanitarian aid? Not the people. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about Hamas. That's the key differentiation we need to understand. So, yeah, D-Love says, no, Israel will not budge. I don't think so either. I don't think Israel, we're past a two-state solution. We've been past it since 1989. We've been past the two-state solution, right? So now what I want us to do is I want us to go to Amir Tasfarti. We're going to look at Amir Tasfarti and what he has to say about what is taking place, because he has some key insights that I think are really, really relevant. Let's listen to Amir Tasfarti and see what he has to say about this whole situation.
Summary of what has just happened in the White House about an hour and a half ago, okay? Now, a lot of people are asking themselves, what is going on here? Did Trump throw Israel under the bus, or is this a good deal, a bad deal? Did Netanyahu just lose the elections, if there were ones? What just happened? So I'll wait for all of you to connect, and I'll give you a quick summary of what happened in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I don't agree with a lot of Amir Tasfarti's end time stuff like Gog and Magog and his views of the Antichrist, but he does have key insights when it comes to Israel, which is why we're watching this video.
In the last few hours, okay? Very, very, very important update. Do me a favor, please share. Press the share button right now so many people will.
Excuse me, guys, we're having technical difficulties. Let's get back to the video.
That Netanyahu said yes to, and Hamas has not yet responded to. So, in fact, while I'm waiting for you, it'll be nice to see where you guys are from. So you can write in your comments on Facebook, Shalom from, and then tell me where you're from, okay? You see that we've got people from different parts. So write comments and tell me where you guys are from, okay? So let me see what part of America or the rest of the world you guys are from. Demilitarizing Gaza and returning the hostages. Remember, again, destroying, dismantling Hamas, whatever, disarming Hamas and kicking them out. Demilitarizing Gaza. No one has any attack weapon. And returning all the hostages, 20 that are alive and and 28 that are dead. These were the three objectives of the war. Of course, Netanyahu is against the Palestinian state. We don't believe that the Palestinian state is anything smart. In fact, we think that's the problem. Gaza was indeed a Palestinian state, and look what it produced. Netanyahu made it very clear, we are not going to allow them to have a state. So, what is no? No Palestinian state, no Hamas in Gaza, no weapon in Gaza in anyone's hands, and denazification of Gaza. They have to learn to live with us, not to die. Okay? All of that. Now, Israel for the past 2 years, and especially in the last few months, is all the way inside the Gaza Strip in the Gideon's chariots and Gideon chariots phase 2 right now, systematically destroying Hamas above and under the ground.
I'll answer questions after this.
80% of Gaza is uninhabitable. More than 80% of the Gaza City residents fled already down south to the humanitarian zone. And what we have now is an agreement that was crafted that holds within it disarming of Hamas, and they will be expelled. Demilitarizing of Gaza, denazification, and all the hostages are back, and it does not include a Palestinian state. That's exactly the goals of the wars that Israel has hoped to achieve. Now, to the disappointing part. And I know that there is a disappointing part, but wait all the way to hear the genius part on behalf of Trump and Netanyahu. The disappointing part is that although the countries of the world declared a Palestinian state or acknowledge or recognize a Palestinian state, Israel was not allowed to impose a sovereignty over Judea and Samaria and even parts of Gaza. So one will say, look, Amir, it can happen again. But let me tell you this. This deal, it reminds me exactly the deal of the century from a few years ago that brought to the world the Abraham Accords. It was on the paper an offer for 2 states. That was before October 7th, and that was a deal that we offered the Palestinian Authority. But in reality, it exposed then the fact that they don't want 2 states. They rejected it on the spot because they don't want 2 states. They want 1 state from the river to the sea, remember. And therefore, all the moderate Muslim countries in the Gulf, and including Morocco and including South Sudan and Sudan and all of that, all of them said, okay, well, if they say no to the deal, we can move forward and have peace with Israel. This is exactly, it's almost like a deja vu right now.
That's crazy.
On the paper, it looks like it's very disappointing. Oh, we don't have a sovereignty on Judea and Samaria and all that. But in reality, It is a setup because Hamas will never agree to be disarmed, expelled, and to, on the first day, give up all the hostages, return them all. It will never happen. Just like Hezbollah will never disarm, just like Iran will never give up its aspiration for nuclear weapon. Look, Iran is now back to the harsh sanctions of the UN and the rest of the world just because Iran did not want to show the world where the stockpile of its enriched uranium. In other words, they prefer sanctions, crippling sanctions, over the right to produce a bomb.
So that's essentially what we're looking at, guys, is we're looking at essentially what it is we're looking at the same exact thing as the deal of the century that took place just a couple of decades ago. Great deal for the Palestinians. They were given a lot of, their statehood, but they rejected it. And so now we have another deal that is essentially saying, look, you guys are defeated. You guys are done. And here's this deal. We want you to essentially just accept defeat and we will leave. We will stop attacking you. Imagine that. But they probably are not going to take it. So I predict that in the next coming days, Gaza and Hamas will not accept this agreement, because this is the pattern we have with Palestine. If they do accept it, then that'll be really, really interesting to see how that moves forward. But if they don't, I would not be surprised at all in the latest. So we have my chat back up, guys. I'm going to get you guys back up on the chat. We're going to get into what some of your guys' questions are. I pinned a bunch of these. So he says, great question for you, Jericho. Will the confirmation of the covenant with many be the final signing by Hamas revealing the Mahdi? I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think that this is going to be the Mahdi coming, or this is going to be the covenant that is, enforced or strengthened by the Antichrist, is because it doesn't seem to fit the context of Daniel. When we go to Daniel, let's look at Daniel and see exactly what Daniel has to say. So I'm going to get us up back on the screen. So Daniel, look at the context of this firm covenant. It says in verse 27, it says, he will make a firm covenant, or in the earliest translations, it says he will establish or enforce a covenant. He will strengthen a covenant, right, with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week, he will put a stop to sacrifice and offering. Okay, so that you could say, okay, well, maybe this is Hamas, somebody coming up within the Hamas leadership to finally confirm a covenant with the Palestinians. And this will be many for 1 week, but then he'll break it, right? But that doesn't seem to fit the context of Daniel 11, because it says right here in Daniel 11, at the appointed time, this is the appointed time of the end, he, talking about the king of the north, will come again to the south. But this time it will not be like the first. Ships of Kittim, this is ships of the west, right, will come against him, and being intimidated, he will withdraw. Then he will rage against the Holy Covenant and take action. On his return, he will favor those who will abandon the Holy Covenant. And then look at what it says right here in verse 31. His forces will rise up and desecrate the temple fortress. So we've yet to see the third temple. We've yet to see the context of the king of the north versus the king of the south. So unfortunately, this peace agreement is not, from what I see, because a lot of people with itching ears, they want to say this is the peace agreement and Trump is the Antichrist. He's enforcing the covenant. Those are just people with itching ears. But when you go to Daniel and you see the true context, we're nowhere near that context as of yet. Okay, I wish I could say differently, but that is the context that I see. CID Garcia says all of these countries wanting a two-state solution in Israel wouldn't allow a solution in their own countries. Hypocrisy. Absolutely true. It is hypocrisy. Armageddon News, what's up, brother? Says the second beast from the land sounds like he comes from the land of Israel. Considering a beast is a king or kingdom coming from the land, this might be Palestine related. He also says it is odd that the false prophet seems to have more influence than the actual first beast. And Palestine certainly has that. The whole world carries the flag. Now, I've said this multiple times. There are multiple candidates for the false prophet, one of which is a false Elijah that comes from the land of Israel and leads the world into the worship or subjugation of the Antichrist. The reason why is because the false prophet is given powers from above to call fire down from heaven, which is exactly what Elijah does. And the Jews are waiting for Elijah before the great and awesome day of the Lord. So are we. So we have the two witnesses, and then we have the false prophet who's leading everyone into the mark. And there's a fornication going on between the beast and Israel. So it's very possible that the false prophet comes from Israel. Now, I don't know how this relates to Palestine. I don't know how this relates to this deal. I don't think the false prophet is going to come in and make this deal. I think we're still in the beginning phases of this peace land. There's going to be peace because remember, the Bible says when they say peace, then comes sudden destruction. So we're waiting for all of the regions of the Middle East to finally be at peace, finally have this peace agreement, then comes the end. Okay? Bible Kyle says, do I think the Prince of Saudi Arabia is the Mahdi? No. And again, when you look at the prophecies of the Mahdi, he comes from the north. So he comes from the north regions, the Shiite regions, and he comes in and he actually invades the Kaaba. He invades Mecca and he sets up camp in the Kaaba and in Mecca. That's what he does. So I don't believe he is going to be one of the kings of Saudi Arabia. I believe he's going to be a Shiite king from the north, which the Bible describes in the book of Daniel as the little horn, the king of the north. Okay, does that make sense? So I also set a goal too. So if we reach that goal, I'll do a whiteboard study. I'll do an encore. So if we reach that goal, you guys can see the goal. I'll do a whiteboard study. But as of yet, we'll just answer some questions. Waiting for humanity to evolve from being barbaric is like waiting for Jesus Christ to return. Absolutely. Absolutely. Armageddon sees, I definitely see a Philistine Goliath versus David scenario playing out, which also seems to mirror Palestine Antichrist versus Christ battle. I can see that. I can definitely see that, brother. So yes, Hamas is defeated either way. Hamas was defeated literally a couple years into or not even a couple years, a couple months into the conflict. They are defeated. And their hope, they knew they were going to be defeated because Israel is backed not only by the US, but is the 8th most powerful military country on the world. Somebody correct me on that. So they knew they were going to be defeated. They were hoping that in their defeat, they could use human shields. They could hide under hospitals. They could do all of these things to make the world go against Israel and have a two-state solution proposed. This is what they want. So on one end, we see the peace agreement is coming well and true, but we also see nations are starting to pressure Israel into accepting a two-state solution. And as long as America doesn't flip, we should be fine. As long as America doesn't flip, we should be fine. Thoughts on the 3-Eye Atlas? I've never heard of this. I've seen things about it, guys. I'm not sure what exactly that is, but I'm not sure. Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Doesn't the Mahdi come with the group with the black flags? Absolutely. He comes with black flags from Khorasan, which is the region of modern day Pakistan, Afghanistan. That's where he comes from. But that's according to Islamic prophecy. We have to look where the Bible describes he comes from, which is from the revived lands of Assyria. That's where he comes from, according to Micah chapter 4. Okay. Turkey is shaking a lot. Absolutely, Turkey is shaking. Let me get a drink while we load up some more questions. Yep. Turkey is shaking a lot. Now, this is really interesting. Actually, YouTube, which is really cool, gives us. Oh, never mind. Never mind. Sorry. I guess I thought I was able to do it, but I can't. I think you can only do it online. But it was the ability to gift memberships. I gifted 5 memberships today to 5 random people. So I just wanted to announce that. Belly says, I think the Antichrist will come from Turkey, the city of Pergamum. It's very possible. It's very, very possible, right? It says that the beast that you saw once was, now is not, and is coming out of the abyss. So that's the beast. So the beast once was, and was one of the previous heads. That's why I don't think it's going to be the caliphate, because the caliphate was the head that was coming, right? The head that is coming next after the head of Rome. So there was the head of Rome, then there was the head of the caliphate, and then there were 5 heads before Rome. And so since the beast once was, I believe it's coming from before Rome, right? So that is why I think that's the case. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Yeah, the revival of the caliphate is using black flags. Amen. Black flags. We have to watch for the black flags that come. Let's see what other questions you guys got. He said, am I hearing it wrong? Did Trump just say it would be an eternal peace? Yeah, you don't get an eternal peace in the Middle East. That's just for sure. That's for certain. Is you do not get eternal peace in the Middle East. Pergamum is where all the Babylonian scholars went. Interesting. What about Iran? Okay. So Iran, what they're doing is they've been defeated. Iran has been pushed into the ground. They have been defeated. They've lost all of their top nuclear generals, all of their top government scientists. They've lost all of them. And they've been significantly set back with their nuclear program. That is what's happened to Iran. Now, Iran was given an option. And they said, look, we're going to give you crippling sanctions. All of the nations of the world are going to give you crippling sanctions unless you tell us where your uranium deposits are located. And they decided we want the sanctions. So they are currently sanctioned. They are currently defeated. There is nothing left for Iran. Iran is gone. Okay. So that is why I'm not seeing Iran playing a big role in this peace agreement as they should have. They needed to be defeated by Israel in order for this to happen. Okay. That is essentially what it is. So it looks like we're stalling on questions, guys. So if we get any more questions, we'll keep going. And if we meet our goal for the stream, I'll do a whiteboard. I'll do a whiteboard teaching. D-Love says, didn't MBS say that Israel would have to agree to a 2-state solution before considering a peace deal? Yes, he did. So again, we're in a tough situation, especially with prophecy. We're in a tough situation because we're still waiting for the 3rd temple to be built. We don't know how that's going to take place. We don't know whether that's going to happen via a deal or whether that's going to happen we don't know how that's going to take place. Same with peace with Saudi Arabia. Okay. They're waiting for Israel to agree to a 2-state solution before anything happens. Who knows what's going to take place, right? All right. Question. Might the final signing or confirmation with the many at some point be with Islam to make the peace deal that is broken 3.5 years into the tribulation period? Might the final signing or confirmation with the many be at some point be with Islam? So clearly the confirmation with many has to deal with all of the nations, with the United Nations, because the United Nations is heavily involved in the Middle East, heavily involved. So this man, this Antichrist, this little horn, when he arises, will make and enforce a covenant. Now, in the Hebrew, it's interesting. It doesn't necessarily say he will make a covenant. It says he will strengthen a covenant. So it's almost as if it's saying there will already be a covenant in place for it to be considered what it is. So that's what we're saying is there's probably already going to be a covenant on the table that the Antichrist rises to power and enforces with many nations. And it has to be a good covenant. It has to be a covenant that all of these nations will accept, because it says they will all accept it. They will accept him. It'll be an acceptable covenant to the United Nations, of which he will break 3.5 years into the covenant. Okay. So, in order for Jesus to come, there needs to be third temple, all Palestinians gone from Gaza and West Bank, and more land in Syria, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Egypt. Essentially, yeah. So in order for Jesus to come, there has to be a third temple that the Antichrist desecrates. That's just number one, right? Gaza will be deserted. Ashkelon will become a desolation. It already is a desolation. 80% of Gaza is currently uninhabitable. It is uninhabitable. 80%. Think about that. So it is already a desolation. And that is essentially what we're going to say. Oh no, we don't have a King Charles person in here, do we? Hopefully not, sister, because I don't agree with King Charles being the Antichrist. Hopefully not, but we shall see. So what I hope to give you guys in this video is just to see how things are playing out. And to see how we're seeing massive updates in our time in relation to, like, literally we could wake up tomorrow, Hamas could accept this agreement, and essentially that's what they would do. Oh, looks like we met our goal, guys. We met our goal. Midnight Cry Ministries, what's up, my brother? He's actually coming on pretty soon to describe the rapture. So we got a $20 super chat. That means I've got to do a whiteboard study. That's the goal that I made. So what topic do you guys want? I'm going to get us ready. Looks like we met our goal. So let me know what topic on the whiteboard you guys want me to discuss. Daniel 8:20 through 22. That's interesting. Jelani is someone to watch. He's got ideas the Muslim Brotherhood hates. Jelani is wanting a peace deal with Israel. Okay, guys, so give me about 2 minutes. I'm gonna put us to a countdown, and I'm gonna get the whiteboard back up, and then let me know, since we met our goal, what topic you want me to do on the whiteboard. Okay, and I will do it. So give me about 2 minutes. Okay. Can you hear me now? There should be sound now. There should be sound now, guys. Sorry about that. And sorry, the edges, I'm drawing so much on it that the edges get really dirty, so it looks kind of dirty. You still can't hear me? Still no audio? Okay. Okay, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? You should be able to. Can you hear me? It's on. Okay. I mean, it was on. You guys saw it was green. So I'm getting yes. Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. Yeah, it was on. I don't know why it's not working. Joey says not yet, still waiting, but everyone else is saying yes. So I'm just going to go ahead and act as if it was yes. Okay. So what I was explaining is there's an end times timeline. Okay. It all started from 0 AD to 33 AD. Okay. And from 33 AD, we are almost exactly 2,000 years. We are almost exactly 2,000 years. In 1948, Israel was regathered to the land. Israel was regathered, which is key, to the land in 1948, nearing the 2,000 years. So the principle that I gave you guys is that a day to the Lord is as 1,000 years. That's the principle. So a day to the Lord is as 1,000 years. So this right here, these 2,000 years are just 2 days. Now, there's a prophecy known as the 2-day prophecy in Hosea 6. So Hosea 6:2. Hosea 6:2. Okay. Which says that after 2 days, he will revive us. And on the 3rd day, he will raise us. That's Hosea 6:2. This is what's known as the 3-day prophecy. Okay, the 3-day prophecy. Now I'm scared that the sound is going to go out. So, yeah, see, it seems like people are able to hear me now, so that's good. I'm speaking right into the mic. Let me move the mic a little bit closer, as close as I possibly can, because it's kind of way over here. Yeah. So that's 2,000 years. So there's after 2 days, he will revive us. And on the 3rd day, he will raise us. So that's a prophecy which could point to the end of the 2,000 years as when Israel would be revived, right? Israel would be revived, which is what happened. That's exactly what happened, is they were revived nearly 2,000 years after they were destroyed. So that is a prophetic end time timeline. And Jesus says in the fig tree, when you see the fig tree sprout and you see its leaves, you know that summer is near. So when you see all of these things taking place, then you know that summer is near. Okay, so that's why Israel being regathered is key to the end time prophetic timeline. So how many years from 1948 to 2025 is that? Let's do some quick math. In 1948, let's say 1950, that would be 73 years. Am I correct? That would be 73 years. I could be wrong. I'm not very good at math. That's why I'm not a math teacher. I'm a prophecy teacher. Okay. That's only 73 years. Okay. To 2025. What has happened in these 73 years that has been so significant, that has been prophetically significant? Well, you had the 6-Day War, where essentially what happened was all of the surrounding Arab states came against Israel in the 6-Day War and essentially came against her, tried to defeat her, but Israel had air superiority, so they were able to destroy all of the aircraft. And in 6 days, they were able to essentially take back their land. So in 6 days, I was just talking to a brother about this the other day. 6 days, 77. Okay, good. 77 years. So not 73, 77. Like I said, I'm not a math teacher. I'm a prophecy teacher, which in some sense requires you to be somewhat good at math, especially if you read Daniel, right? The 6-day war happened. Then you had the Yom Kippur War. Now notice, we're just about to go into Yom Kippur. So Yom Kippur, that happened where they sneak attacked on Yom Kippur, and that's when that happened. So that is one of the events that took place within these 77 years. And so now, since we're in 2025, okay, what's happening? All the surrounding nations in the United Nations are pressuring Israel into a two-state solution. Of which Israel is not going to give up any of their land. They're not. There's no way that they're going to give up any of their land. So we're going to see continuing pressure like a pressure cooker, and very well the USA could flip. The USA could flip because Trump is very good to Israel, but if we get some sort of Democrat or we get some sort of, who knows, into the White House, they could very, very well flip. Okay? So that is, a generation of 70 to 80 years. So we're nearing the end of this generation. We're at the very tail end of this generation, the 77 years in 2025. So give or take 3 more years. That means the end of a generation. The end of a generation could be in 3 more years. So the generation that sees all these things take place, I'm not saying this is the case, but the generation that saw the regathering of Israel could point us to the fact that we are at the very end. Okay, so that's kind of my impromptu end times timeline. I hope you guys liked it. What's up, Scott? How you doing, Scott? I appreciate it. So make sure you screenshot that, or make sure you understand. Sorry for the sound. We lost a lot of people. We had 100 people on the live, but we lost 100 people. So I'm sorry about that, guys. When I switch, I have everything set when I'm in my normal spot, but then when I switch to come up, that's when things kind of get wonky. So I need to make sure to do better at that, right? So does that make sense? Yep. So yeah, that's essentially it. So that is your end times timeline. And hopefully that makes sense according to this video. A lot of stuff is coming down the pipe, guys. A lot of stuff is coming down the pipe. And that's why we have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant about all these things. Okay? So that is going to be it for the night. Gina said, I think the Antichrist is going to pump up his ugly head pretty soon. Fake peace deal cooking. Yep. Fake peace deal, guys. Fake peace deal. Something is telling me that there will be something big in 2033, which will mark the 2000th anniversary of Jesus's birth, death, and resurrection. Did Hamas reject it? No, not yet. We unless breaking news happened while I was during this live, Hamas is still waiting. Thank you, Gina. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Fake peace deal soon. Amen. All right, guys. That's going to be it for tonight. Appreciate everybody joining the live.